Okay, so let's talk about why your girl's always yapping about self-parenting, right? Um, it is the biggest piece and one of the pillars of foundational work to rewiring and reprogramming any coping mechanisms that are holding you back with what you want to do. And the thing is, in our childhood environment, right? The kid who learn to cope in the ways that we learn to cope, right? Like right now, I work with women who came out of childhood with coping mechanisms of hyper independence, isolation, over self reliance to the point of self detriment. But there's a lot of different things like the people pleasing and the procrastination and these things aren't personality traits, they're coping mechanisms, right? And all coping mechanisms are going to outlive their usefulness, right? The thing is, the your nervous system, right? Your system sees those coping mechanisms and those patterns and programming as the single existing route to safety on a daily basis, right? So if there is something that is going to require you to operate outside of those coping mechanisms, that's when we get triggered. That's when we get into fight or flight. That's when, we spin out and maybe you get to the point where our nervous system is not regulated, things like that. That kid stays with you your whole life, right? And I say it that way um, to say that that kid, in order for that kid to learn that something else is safe, they have to experience a new way of being parented, right? Our childhood environment, how we were parented, was the what's the word? I've lost my vocabulary. Catalyst, excuse me, was the catalyst for you creating and operating in the coping mechanisms that you're in, right? It is the reason you operate and cope with isolation and hyper independence and self reliance and things of that nature, right? Because you learned through how you were parented that you could not rely on others, that you could not trust others to get your needs met, right? That you had to manage the moods of other people, that type of thing. Um, until that kid experiences parenting at a different level, it cannot operate. And therefore, because it is within you, you cannot operate at a different level. You cannot operate outside those coping mechanisms until that child is given a new environment, right? Our parents don't teach us how to navigate the world. Our parents teach us what they're afraid of in the world, right? Our parents don't teach us how to parent our children. Our parents teach us how we parent ourselves, right? So when you're frustrated, when you get something wrong, when, you're behaving in a way that would have gotten a certain reaction as a kid, to a certain extent, you can probably see, maybe you can't see it, but you're probably experiencing treating yourself the same way that you were treated, right? For me, I um, had to work through a lot of like, and still, with certain new experiences, it still comes up this like feeling like I can't get it wrong, right? Because getting it wrong back in the day meant getting yelled at explosively, getting a kick in the ass, quite literally, being asked, what are you fucking stupid, right? And through doing this work and through reparenting and re-experiencing myself in these new ways, I was able to see as soon as I messed up, my internal monologue was, my internal voice and conversation became, Oh, what are you fucking stupid? Oh, why are you so stupid? Right? Like, that's not how I would treat any kid I came across. Right? But it's how I'm treating the kid within me because that's what I learned. That's how I learned to be parented. So that's how I parent me. Right? That is happening within all of us all the time. Right? And that is why reparenting is the work, right? Is a lot of the work. The And it's also why you can change environments. You can change states, you can change countries, you can change relationships, you can change jobs. But everywhere you go, there you are, right? Because that kid is going to be there for the rest of your life, right? And that kid only knows one way to function because as kids, we only have the option to cope. We don't have the autonomy, the financial resources, the ability to remove ourselves from a situation, to buy ourselves the support we need, to um, give ourselves love and connection that we need from other people, right? Um, so we need to give that kid a new experience. And when we do, it learns that other ways are safe, right? It is safe to be supported, to ask for help. It is safe to rely on someone else. It is safe to express when we are going through something hard. It is safe to get something wrong, to not be good at something immediately. Been there. Um, it is safe to be vulnerable, right? It is safe to connect with and trust and love and open yourself up to other people, right? But that kid will never know and never learn that that is true if it is continuing to be parented the same way that created and in the same fashion that created the coping mechanisms to begin with. Yeah. This is why self-parenting and reparenting. And when I say self-care, I mean self-parenting, right? I don't mean hair appointments and bubble baths. Like my clients know this very well. The self-care I'm talking about is reparenting, right? Is self-parenting, is making sure that you are getting sleep, that you are nourished, that you are fed, that you are hydrated, that you're getting fresh air on a regular basis, that you're moving your body. And you don't have to do it all at once, right? But you start to make intentional, incremental changes in terms of how you show up for, provide for, and support yourself. And it changes the entire way that kid sees the world. It changes the way in which you can see the world, right? But the only way to do that, right? We can toxic positivity and positive mindset and gratitude and celebration list ourselves to feeling good in the moment, but a lot of that can be turned into its own coping mechanism, right? We have to learn what emotions even are and how they present in our bodies, right? It's a lot of sitting with ourselves. What am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling that way? Well, it makes perfect sense that you feel that way because of A, B, and C. I got you. We're safe now. We're grown. I've got credit cards. I've got means to get us what we need. I am continually proving to you day after day that I am here to support you. And when a kid learns and has that safety, only then can that kid take on more risk. and take on more of the world and learn to build capacity for the human experience. Right? And maybe I'll save this for another video, or also in addition to another video, but it's why everybody talks about like that second child being the wild child, being the risk taker, right? Think about the differences in how a first child versus a second child is parented a lot of the times, right? Firstborn, it's like parents that just learned to drive, right? Parents of a firstborn are driving at 10 and 2, hands are at 10 and 2 on that steering wheel, right? They are following the rules. They are following the book. They are afraid. They don't want you to, do anything that you're going to hurt yourself. They're super cautious, they're afraid of more, right? Because a lot of that first time around is unknown. That kid learns it cannot take on risks. It is not safe to take risk, right? And then that second kid comes along and parents aren't worried about getting the name brand diapers, right? They're not worried, they've learned that you've got to let your kid stumble and fall a little bit, right? They're not as 10 and 2, right? They're cruising a little bit more when it comes to parenthood. And in addition, a lot of times that firstborn becomes an additional parent and an additional resource for the second, thirdborn children to get their needs met, to have an additional being, an additional person in their childhood environment, creating the safety for them to take risk, right? It was a lot easier as a firstborn to encourage your little brother or sister to jump off that thing or to do that risky thing, right? You send them out to do it. I dare you. I double dog dare you, right? They're encouraged to take risk, even if it's just from their older sibling being mischievous and asking them to do it because they can't take on the risk themselves. But inherently, that second child learns to have a greater capacity for risk because of their parents being less afraid the second time around. Our parents teach us what they're afraid of, not how to navigate the world. Yeah? Yeah. I'm going to leave that there.